Hey friends, welcome to the library. Welcome back to the library. I have with me today Miss Geri Smith. I'm super excited to be talking to you. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. Very excited to be here.
Yay, small claps. I can't hear them, but small claps. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in the book community and reading.
Ooh, in terms of like starting reading, that just goes way back to childhood. My mom jokes that I've always kind of like had a book in my hand. We moved around a lot when I was younger, and so books were just always like a steady companion whenever we moved to a new place. And I remember when I was like a kid, I think it was when we were in Poland, so I would have been 6 or 7 maybe, and in class, we had a whole bunch of students that were also international students learning English as a second language, and apparently I read at them to help them learn how to read English and speak English, which sounds just like me because I feel like everybody needs to read and all that jazz, even though I know it's not everybody's shtick. I think it's important because it makes me happy. In terms of like the book community, it's just I really liked seeing everybody else's pictures, and so I was like, well, I want people to know what I'm reading, and whether they care or not doesn't matter, because I just like putting out there when I'm really excited about something. So that's kind of my angle for it, and then reacting to everybody else's that I get excited to read.
I like it. I find that really interesting. My mom would have said the same thing. You've had books in your hands since you were little, but I mean, just continental U.S., everybody was kind of had their thing, so it wasn't like, I mean, yours is a little more interesting because you were helping other people learn English, and I was just in my own little world.
Well, to be fair, I spent a lot of time in my own little world as well. I'd sometimes go with my parents to things that they had in the evening, whether it was at somebody's house or something for the office. And inevitably, it'd be time to go home, and I would be like tucked up in a corner or like under a table or something, just reading a book. And then I'd, say that I couldn't go home yet until I'd finished my chapter or something like that, when I could have just, finished it at some other time. But I've always liked reading. It's always been a comfort.
Yeah. Would you say that your reading tastes have changed since you were a child? Like, I feel like as we grow, obviously the length and the different types of books, because not everyone reads YA throughout their entire life. And like some of the young childhood books are not the same, but do you feel like is it still like adventure fantasy or like?
I think so. I think, I mean, the genre that I gravitate to the most now, I think, is romance, but I think that's because I really love that there's kind of like a set expectation of what needs to happen between the covers, but how you get from the beginning to the end can always be a different journey, even if it's like the same tropes that are being explored. And so, or even like if it's like the same kind of story, there'll still be some twist to it that's different, so that, you get a different enjoyment out of it. And I think you get that in every genre. But like now I think I read a lot of romance, or like a romance with something, because I really enjoy crime and thriller, just because that's also quite episodic isn't the right word, and serial isn't either, but that there's like a set structure that it follows, and so I enjoy that. I think it's also why I really enjoy like watching police procedurals and everything, because you get like a crime per episode, and then sometimes like an overarching thing. So like in books you have like a couple per book, but if you're reading in a series, then you get to like see them again and see how they're doing sometimes. When I was younger, it was definitely a lot of fantasy. I've always been fantasy more than sci-fi. No tea, no shade to sci-fi, and I enjoy the occasional like robot twist or alien or anything like that. But I think that it's the escapism that I gravitate to, which you can get in all fiction. But for me, it really, especially, is in like fantasy and romance and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have like an all-time favorite book?
I do. So my all-time favorite book, and I don't think it's changed in the last really long time, is it's a book called The Eight by Katherine Neville, or Neville. I've never quite figured out how she pronounces her own last name. And since then, she's released 2 other books that kind of like tie into that same world. But it's a book that starts off as, well, throughout the book, you have 2 separate storylines. One is, I think, set in 1791 and the other one's set in 1973, but they come together at the end, and like there's really interesting layers in terms of like a really diverse cast of characters. There's lots of travel in it. There's like an apprentice nun in it. There's also a woman in like the oil industry, which was really quite interesting for like the 1970s. And then all of it actually surrounds this chess set that supposedly belonged to Charlemagne, and like people are kind of used as pieces of a chessboard within the story. I don't know. It's really cool. And every time I read it, I just really enjoy the adventure. I've always thought that it would be such a good movie or TV movie type thing, so that you could stretch it out a little bit more to get all those details in there.
Oh, for sure. That would be really interesting to visualize, one, and then to compare like how you would have seen it. Because, every time we go to watch a movie that was a book, we want to compare and see what was left out and what was put in and how they arranged a certain scene. And I feel like that would be really, really neat to see.
Yeah, no, it'd be really fun. But yeah, it's fun because it has some adventure in it. It has some romance in it. It has some kind of that like thriller aspect to it. It just is like a lovely melting pot of all my faves. So it always makes me happy to reread it and revisit it.
So we said romance is your favorite. Do you have like a comfort subgenre in that section? Or is it just kind of like anything?
I think like the easy answer is anything, and the throwaway answer is that I think I'm definitely a mood reader. So like it might be like the overall umbrella of romance, but then within that umbrella, it could be sometimes something a little darker, sometimes something really like sugary sweet, sometimes something that's a little bit of everything. And I don't know.
That's the life of a mood reader.
No, it's true. It really is. And also, I'm a rereader for sure. So, like, if I've gotten like a certain feeling from a book, then I know I can always go back to that book to get that same feeling back. And like, that is a really nice thing to be able to rely on.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Do you feel like that favorite all-time book is the one you always recommend, or do you have something different? Like if somebody was come to you and was like, I want to start in romance, but I don't know where to start because there's so much.
No, it's true. And that's where I think I probably always need to like rein myself in, because I can go overboard a little bit in terms of like, right, okay, I need you to answer like a couple of questions so I can give you a bit more direction in that space. I was at my friend's house maybe like a month and a half ago, and her parents were visiting, and we were talking about books and reading, and then one of our other friends mentioned how much romance I read, and so her mom kind of perked up at that and was like, oh, well, could you give me some recommendations? And I was like, okay, yes, but I need you to give me a bit of direction, because like I have a whole spectrum in terms of what you may or may not be comfortable with. So let's see within that what actually might be your bag. And so I think I ended up settling on keeping it quite like emotional, a little bit gut wrenching, but overall quite light in comparison to, I guess, what I like to read sometimes. And I think I started off with like Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. So it's just like, you get a little bit of drama, you get some flair, and then if you like it, there's 2 other books, so you automatically have a lovely little Knockemout collection to dive into.
Oh my gosh. No. I just finished that series not too long ago, and
no way!
Yeah. I read the first one a few months back, and then I Move read. Mood reader. So I was just like, okay, I'll start the second one. And I got a couple chapters in, and then nothing. It was just, I couldn't for a while. And so somebody finally was like, okay, listen, the second one is better than the first one, and the third one is even the best because I like filthy mouthed male main characters. And they're like, if you really enjoy the filthy mouth, like you need to get to the third one already. And I was like,
yeah, you need Suit Daddy.
Yeah. Yes.
No, 100%. No, to be fair though, I really love like Knox and Daisy. And then I really did like getting to see his brother's story, especially because he was like, I like the way that Lucy Score develops characters, because throughout the whole first book, I could be like, he's wearing a mask, and like she's not hiding the fact that he's wearing a mask, even though most of the people in the book were kind of like, he's just being his usual policeman self. And then and then starting to get those little teasers of Sloane and Lucian, I was like, yes, please. Also, she's a librarian, was not to love.
Right. Okay. And you could tell, like, from the beginning, when you were looking at the Knox and Daisy combo in the first book, like, you could tell there was a lot of tension between the two of them. And tension is always going to lead somewhere.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
I also just think it's funny because I'm like, yeah, but like to me she is Daisy, but she's Naomi, isn't she? But I'm just like, but he calls her Daisy, so in my head I'm like, oh, but I want to call her Daisy too. I think it's always really fun. I love it when an MMC gives his forever FMC like a nickname, like, and I'm not very picky in terms of what that nickname is. I don't think I have a lot of ones that are like icks, as long as it feels right in the story, but it needs to feel right in the story. If it's something that feels forced, I'm like, you could have done better. You could have done a poll with your readers. You could have like asked the character, like all of the above. You could have figured it out. And I mean, I know that authors go through that process, so by any means, that's me personally deciding that something doesn't work for me, but they might know why it does work for the characters in the story. And then at that time, I always will bow down and say, I apologize. You were very right. I now understand.
I'm going to double-handed bow.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so we're going to go with, that's probably going to be your always rec, because it's easy to get into, but also easy to just have a taste and be done. Do you have a book that you'd probably never recommend?
I don't think so. And I think that's one, because I haven't read everything. And two, I know that on some days, a book that I love is just not my bag. So I never know what anybody else's mood would be in terms of like, maybe they're just not reading it on the right day. Like, even with what you said, that you started the second one from that series and then you just kind of left it to the side for a while, but then you came back to it. And I think that that's okay. I feel like as a reader, I'm saying this collectively, I by no means have the right to speak on behalf of all readers, but I feel like we quite often, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves that we need to finish a book when we start it straight away, like that we need to, that we can't put things to the side, or, you know, even if you have a rule about DNFing or not, you know, that's entirely your preference and it doesn't matter what anybody else does. And I think that I've tried to be a lot kinder to myself in terms of, but why are you trying to force yourself to read something that you're not enjoying at that moment? Read something else instead. You'll come back to it at some point if you want to. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can do that. It's like being an adult and remembering, if I want cake, I can go and buy some. I don't have to wait for an occasion. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's one of the perks of being an adult.
The dishes can wait one more day.
They can.
Go watch your TV show. They can wait one more day. It's okay. I have to tell myself that all the time. I'm like, do not stress. It can wait one more day. Like, if you do not, one of my friends explained this to me, and I think it goes for not just reading, but anything. She explained their mental capacity in, like, you start your day with a number of spoons in your hand. Okay. So as you go through the day and you complete your task, you use your spoons. Well, some days you're going to use more spoons than others.
Yeah.
And some days you're not going to use as many. And if you get to the end of the day and you're like, I have one spoon and that's going to be just forcing myself to shower and go to bed on time,
That is
Everything else
okay.
can wait. Have your meal, shower, and go to bed on time, and that'll be it. It's okay. And then
Yeah.
when she explained that to me, I was just like, the amount of like just calm that washed over me, and I was like, this helps so much.
Nah, I
So
like
much.
that one. For me, it's a bucket. I have a bucket that
Yeah,
I fill and empty throughout the day, depending on how I'm doing.
I like that. That's interesting. There are so many different ways to explain it, but all in all, it's just like if you don't have the capacity, do what you need to obviously take care of yourself and your body, your mental health, and then
Yes.
whatever else it is, the laundry, the dishes, you know, if the dog needs a bath, whatever, the cat needs to be groomed, all of
Mm-hmm.
those things can wait at least one more day. And, it's okay to ask for help too. That happens to the best of
Yes.
us. I need help all the
For sure.
time. Anyways, so we have I feel like I have one or two that I would probably never write, and I don't think it would be necessarily because I didn't like the book, but it's one of those, the author in general, Jodi Picoult,
Mm.
she writes on very touchy subjects. And so
Yeah.
there are some where I'm just like, I'm not going to openly recommend this author to anyone because I don't know where you stand. Like, this is something you need to find on your own. Small Great Things is one of the biggest examples for that because it very much
Yeah.
touches on racism and death of children and infants. And I just can't, I would never willingly say, oh, go read this book. No, you need to figure out whether or not you want to read it yourself.
No, I think that's a really valid point. And I think that's where, in my mind, if there's ever anything that I think I'd like hesitate to recommend or not, I would try and see if people know what their trigger warnings are or like what their like no thank you subjects are and tropes and all of that, because I think that kind of helps you like figure out where to direct them and guide them. And I do think that it's pretty like, I think that it's really lovely of authors to try and be as open and kind of transparent as they can with their readers in terms of like what they think that they might be referencing in their books. But I guess for me, I don't know. I feel like I compartmentalize a lot of things in my life for better or for worse, but it's one of my coping mechanisms. And I think I also do that when I read, where I'm like, well, you know what? Whatever I experience with or through the book, like, is what I experience with the book. And I think that, when I think it's also, I've always just had a really healthy dose of fiction versus reality in terms of like when a book is fiction. And I definitely read about delightfully, deliciously immoral characters that I really hope that I never encounter in reality, but I'm very happy to read hundreds of pages about them. So I just try and make sure that I like keep that straight in my mind, because I'm like, well, no, I really don't want to run into that person in an alley. Thank you very much. But I sure enjoyed the heck out of reading what happened to her when he and her met in an alley. So I think that's something that for me has just always been a balance. And then I have far too many degrees that have something to do with English. So I think I've always just had to think a lot about like, well, why have things been written this way? Or like, why would authors make these choices? And so I think that in my head, I then also like from like having analyzed a lot of writing, I then like can separate out that to just enjoy what I read as well. So I think that's where like for me it really comes from in terms of that like escapism and just enjoyment element, no matter how cotton candy it is or how dark chocolate it is. It's still all rich.
All right. So do you use like book socials?
Yeah, I do. I think my like book Instagram is probably the one that I do the most on. And then like occasionally I'll get a notification from Threads and I'll go look at it. That's where I heard about this podcast and what you were looking for. And so I got really excited in that space. And then like I have a clock account, and like we'll use that to sometimes like post like an unboxing reveal. But I'm terrible at social media. I really am more of a stalker than anything else. I just like seeing what everybody else is doing, and then every once in a while I'm like, ooh, I'm going to try that, and then epically fail at it, and then never think about it ever again. But no, I think for me, it's mainly, I think my Bookstagram, my Instagram about books that I really like to use to just like get excited about what everybody else is doing and reading and seeing. And yeah, I think that's like my social media happy place.
Yeah, I don't blame you. The algorithms are hard to figure out, and trying to manage more than one account. Okay, when I say trying to manage more than one account, I don't just mean like on one platform.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a set of socials for myself for all the book stuff, and then I have the set of socials for the podcast.
Yeah,
for book stuff. And so I've just been like, I have to remember to post stuff about the podcast.
Yeah, no, I totally get that.
It's all right. It's fine. It's cool. I find that like scheduling is nice, but it's not always easy to remember to go in and schedule things.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're on any like ARC or street teams, things get thrown at you like within a couple days, maybe a week, and you're like, I have to readjust my entire like scheduling.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think like I'm really lucky with some of the like authors that I get to ARC for and everything, and I always really look forward to like their next book and everything. But what also happens is I get so excited, I read it when I first get my hands on it, and I'll have like my review ready and everything. Mm-hmm. And then they legit number of times that I get chased up being like, you haven't sent us your like review links, or like, where did you like upload your review? And I'm like, so here's the story. I've had it ready for about a month, but I got so excited that I read it straight away when I got it, and then I forgot to remind myself to do anything with it. And they're always like, well, we're really glad you enjoyed it. But I'm always like, oh yeah. I have to be so organized for work that I think sometimes personally my brain is like, I always call my brain like a bowl of spaghetti, and you don't know where one end of like one noodle is and like the end of the other noodle. And so that's my brain. And I can get it semi-organized for work, but I think then for everything else, I'm always constantly like scheduling reminders for myself in my calendar being like, you need to mention this on this day to this person, or have you thought about this? Please remember to look at this other time. But then also once I've scheduled it or like written it down somewhere, then I can like forget about it because I know that I've reminded myself in the future.
In the future.
Future proofing.
I'm the same
Future
way.
Geri can worry about it.
Yes. So, how many, like, are you just on art teams? Are you on street teams? And if, like, of which, how many of each? Like, how many do you manage?
Ooh. I think I'm mainly an arky gal. I don't like, I'll definitely gladly like share things onto like my story and everything on my book account, but I feel like I'm really lucky. All the authors that I do it for, they all definitely are in the camp of it doesn't matter how big or how small your following is. Like, it's just lovely that you want to shout out about the books that you're reading. But I feel like guilty sometimes that I can't do more for an author. So I try to avoid street teams just because I don't know if I can like meet what I feel I would set as personal requirements in that space versus what I would love to be able to do for an author and their work. Because like, if I've really enjoyed something, then yeah, I really do want to shout out about it. And so I'll post about it. But then at the same time, don't know who actually will see it, you know? So like, if I can read it and put a review on, say, like BookBub, Goodreads, Amazon, or wherever else I happen to think about on that day, like hopefully that will help in like boosting ratings and numbers, which I think might do more than if I were to share it on my obviously beautifully curated, messy little book account. in terms of arcs and stuff, I have like I don't know, probably more than is like realistically plausible, but I get really lucky that it always just seems to time out well in terms of like when they're releasing and then when I'm able to read it. And some of them are amazing and like really far in advance planned people. And then others are like, so you have an arc in your inbox, surprise. But then they also thankfully like don't put pressure on it in terms of, well, you need to like have read it by X time or anything. And also, I think that I'm really lucky that none of mine are really like that. And then also I just get to self-motivate myself then to read instead of feeling like I have to read something at some point. So it works with my mood reading vibes.
Yeah. For anyone listening that is curious about getting onto teams or how you get advanced reader copies, which is what we're talking about, ARC copies of books, there are plenty of accounts between Threads and Instagram that do author services, where they offer like a master list for influencers or arts where you can sign up for emails and they'll show you this month, these are what books we have available for requesting arcs. And sometimes you can even check author pages and they'll have signups in a link tree of some sort, where you can go in and sign up for their art team or their street team. And sometimes just reaching out and saying, hey, do you do arcs? I would love to take a look. Sometimes the authors will get you a foot in that way as well. A lot of the time, if you're looking at a smaller author, they have a team set up, or they're looking to set up a team, or they just want a little bit of help. And a lot of the times, depending on who you're following on Threads or Instagram, they post those things regularly. Hey, we have a new book coming out soon. We're going to be posting ARC signups, and you just follow the links.
It's true.
Yeah. It can get really easy. Some of it can be complicated. Yeah, some of it can be a little complicated, but there are plenty of service emails where you can, where the account itself is a business that does arcs for many authors, and they'll send you a large email of this is what's up this week, this is what's coming next week, and all of that stuff. That's how I ended up arc reading something from Willow Winters.
She's amazing. Have you had the chance to meet her?
I have. I went to Readers Take Denver and she was there, and gosh, she is one of the sweetest human beings on the planet.
Yeah, no, she's lovely. I got to meet her in London at Rare last year. Was it last year? I think it was last year, yeah. So that was really, really cool. And I think she's on the list for next year, and I got tickets, so I'm really excited. Yeah. She's great.
And she's always so she dresses up.
So fancy.
I know. Everybody else is in like t-shirts and nice their dress shirts and jeans or something, and she's like in this whole like,
I think she was wearing like a red, like a beautiful, like blood red satin ball gown, I think, when I saw her. Or that's what she's recently been on in social media. I can't remember. But she was wearing a lovely dress. I remember that.
She has a lot of really nice dresses. And I like seeing all of her posts on social media about her binding her special editions with her husband and everything. I'm just like, oh, he's such a great helper.
It's so cool. And the machines look so good. Did you see that she got proofs of her? Oh, yeah. But she got like an advanced copy of her stuff that's going to be on Passionflix.
No, I didn't.
Because I swear I saw that on... I think that was one of the videos that she posted recently. And it was... But then I was like, I need to go back through my Passionflix emails because I can't remember if I remember reading which one of her books got options, so if that's true or not. But I was like, it's really cool if she's made it on that. Have you ever watched any Passionflix adaptations?
I have not, and I probably should. but I have not had
There's
the
no
chance yet.
pressure in that space. I just remember reading about it when it first came out, and I just thought it was really cool because how cool is it that there's a platform that basically is like run by romance readers for romance readers, and
Mhm.
like that's where you get your Hallmark movie fix, but it's basically all romance, and like the platform itself is like spread out a bit more, but it's just really cool. And it's just been such an interesting selection of things that they've had, like from Jodi Ellen Malpass to what's her name, Alessandra Torre, to just such a great spread of some. I think Amy Dawes had one recently. Like,
Mm.
it's just really, I just think it's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, I should look into that. What was the last book you read that you gave like 5 stars?
So the book I read this morning, I'm still mulling over, but it's I think definitely at least a 4 star. But the last 5 star for sure is Melanie Moreland's most recent release, My Favorite Boss.
Okay.
It was so much fun. Um, last year, I think it was last year, she released one called My Favorite Kidnapper, and they're like loosely set in the same world, but they don't
Mhm.
really at the moment have any overlay between these two books, but she does reference some of her other series and stuff, which is really fun, like the Bam Boys with all their architectural amazingness. But yeah, My Favorite Boss, which is just really fun, and it's office romance and like has like the kind of curmudgeon of a boss and then like the sunshine of an assistant that rocks up out of the middle of nowhere, and then the like tension. And in this one it was like a fun twist on HR always showing up at the wrong time, while sometimes in office romance like HR is the
Yeah.
enemy. And this one they were just like a fun side character. Um, and there's usually in a Melanie Moreland book, there's like a rogue cat that pops up. And so in this case, there was a kitten that looked like a hedgehog. And so he was called, I think they called him Hedgy or like Hedge Fund because money had to do with like other stuff and everything. But yeah, it was just really fun and it put a smile on my face. And I know that I'm going to enjoy rereading it as well. And so that for me was definitely one of my recent 5 stars.
Wow, that sounds good. Also, future self, we're going to write that down. I typically go through and make sure that I have like all the books that we talk about in the show notes. But that one's for me, so I can read it because I need to read it.
I was going to say, I could list many a book, so I won't do that so that you don't have too many to put through in show notes.
It's fine. That's what this is for. Um, do you follow like traditional? Do you actually follow like star ratings, as in like if you because we were talking about the possibility of DNFing earlier. Like if you were able
Mm-hmm.
to get through something, but you didn't really enjoy it, are you one to like not rate it at all, or would you go ahead and give it like a lower star rating?
I think because of how finicky algorithms are, I'm more likely to not rate it than to give it a low rating, just because I don't want to negatively impact somebody else's livelihood. There's
Mhm.
so many authors that do it quite literally as a living, and I wouldn't want to have any kind of negative impact on that. Just because that book wasn't for me, that doesn't mean it isn't for other people.
Yeah.
Um, I really love it when authors like find empowerment in like 1 star ratings to be like, ha, too much open door shenanigans. Well, then this is the book for you, or things like that. But
Yes.
I think, um, now I try to be really honest with my rating, but then
Mhm.
I think I'm more often likely, especially if it's say like when I talk about what I've been reading on my actual Bookstagram, I don't often say like 4 out of 5 stars or however many stars. I kind of talk about what I liked about it or like what I wanted more of. Because also,
Mhm.
if I choose to tag an author in my post just to be like, I just read this book, I don't want authors to ever, with me, not that like I matter in the grand scheme of things, but I don't want them to ever be like, oh, right, I've been tagged in something by Bookland Wanderer, like I need to gird my loins. I don't ever want to be that kind of a space. I just don't want what I can do, the little that I can do about my presence on social media, as much of a footprint as I do or don't have. Like, I want to make sure that I'm doing my best to make that a positive space. So like, I try and make sure that that's reflected in what I post, what words I use, that kind of stuff. Like, I tend to use it as this is what I'm really excited by space more than anything else.
Yeah. I find myself doing the same, and not necessarily like that doesn't mean I wouldn't go in and give it the stars on Amazon or Goodreads, but also if you take a look at my Goodreads, 90% of what lands there ends up with a 4 or 5 star. And it's not to say like those things don't hold weight to me, because they do and they also don't. Like if I enjoyed it, it's getting 5 stars. Like if I thoroughly enjoyed what I read, even if I find typos, even if I find grammatical errors, even if I think that the writing is a little under edited, like it needs developmental things, if I thoroughly enjoyed it, I'm not going to rate it anything less. Just because it could use, everybody's writing is different. They may have intentionally wanted it that way, you know?
Yeah, I think for me, it's definitely like, if I decide to go through the effort of like rating it somewhere, then it really had an impression on me. That tends to kind of be, I think, my barometer. But that doesn't mean that I don't like read. Like I read a lot, and I definitely don't rate everything that I read, and I don't post about everything that I read. I just read it and then pick up something new to read. But I think that we have as much or as little power with it as we want. But I think sometimes that as a reader, like I forget that what I say or what I do like has power. And so I want to try and make sure I am conscientious with that, I guess.
Yeah. I feel like for me, it's one of those, like, if it held weight, like I'll give it the star so that somebody else can give it a chance, because like Goodreads and Amazon, you like die in a hill of everybody else's readings. But with what goes on my social, like like you said, it has to have some sort of impact or momentous, like something really sits with me in order for it to make it onto my my Instagram. Like I'm not just posting anything, and most of the time I'm the same as far as like my star ratings don't make it onto Instagram, because I want to tell you, like, not necessarily tell you about the book, but like pieces of it that I liked, or what made an impact on me without trying to like spoil it.
Yeah, for sure. What was your most recent 5-star?
Okay, so the one that I remember that I'm currently reading Madness by Chantel Tessier.
Excellent.
And I'm 70-something% in, and I honestly, I would rather be. It is nothing against anyone else, but I want to cancel all the rest of my plans today and go finish the book.
Well,
like it has me in a chokehold.
Yes, you are gripped.
Very gripped by that book currently. But the last one that I finished that I can remember currently was Lady Killer by L.M. Ramirez.
I haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
The first one is Virgin Sacrifice.
Okay.
And it was good. And it leaves you on a cliffhanger. And Lady Killer is even better, and it leaves you on a bigger cliffhanger. And I don't even know that Lady Killer is 100% on the shelves yet. I don't think she's published it quite yet. I did an arc for it.
Oh, cool.
So now
but now you gotta wait.
I have to wait forever. But I just like, I always really love seeing strong female main characters and
Yeah.
strong, curvy female main characters who are independent. They just sit with me. And so, plus this is like a dark reverse harem romance. So those things alone already had my interest peaked, and currently half of the entourage doesn't like her and the other half does.
I love that. I love that so much. And then they all fall because they have to fall because that is what's going to happen. Yes. Okay. This is going on my TBR. I am now the one making notes. Oh, so good. So good.
Yeah. It's the tension is delicious. It is delicious. And then as the second book progresses, another one of them starts to wane a little bit in their dislike. The entire time, like, her life hangs in the balance of like, are these guys that I'm starting to care for going to kill me, or is someone else going to kill me? And
this sounds delectable. Like, this, is there one that's also like just that little bit deranged and psycho? Because that's also my favorite, when there's one that is just like, because like K.A. Knight does that in Den of Vipers. I can't remember what the name of the series is, but Lilith Vincent does that with is it Brutal in? It's not Brutal in Blood. Oh, if she ever listens to this, she's going to be like, Geri, you should know what that book is called. Geri, hold on. One moment, please. It's Brutal in something.
I get similar vibes from Den of Vipers as far as the men go. Like, there's one more. There's one more than there were in Den of Vipers, but you've got like Suit Daddy.
Is it First Come Blood? There's a Suit Daddy. I love a Suit Daddy. Yes. Yeah, First Come Blood is the first in that series. Not Brutal. I was thinking of her other series, which is like Brutal Intentions, and she has a new one coming out soon called Brutal Husband, and I think it's next week, and I can't wait.
The excitement, I can feel it. Okay, so strong female curvy main character.
Yeah.
And we've got a set of twins.
Oh.
And then,
Hello.
Okay, so we've got a set of twins, and one is like really outgoing and charismatic, and the other is like really quiet and reserved. And then you have a professor who is her teacher, and then you've got the resident psycho, who is a serial unaliver, and that excellent. Is his art.
Wonderful. Oh, there's going to be some epic gift giving in that one, I can tell.
And then you have Suit Daddy, who is in charge of all of them. And is the one who majorly threatens her life.
Lovely. Often it's the leader that's like the last one to crumble, to fall, to succumb to it all.
Oh, and the resident psycho and Suit Daddy are intertwined.
Lovely.
And there is a hint of a twin sandwich. It is mentioned.
Oof. Be still my beating heart. Okay. Well.
It is mentioned and hinted at. It doesn't actually happen in the first two, but I'm holding out, fingers crossed, for the third book.
Well. Is this going to be a trilogy, or do you think it'll be more? I'm trying to decide if I can deal with the waiting, or if I'll wait until they're all out.
I'm going to check my messages, because I was talking to one of Luna's friends not too long ago. 4. She said it's a 4-book series.
Okay.
But anyways, yes, I finished book 2 and immediately went into my Discord server, and I was like, I just back-to-back read the first book of this series and the second book of this series that is an arc, and realized that I was just left on the biggest cliffhanger I have probably ever felt in my life, and I have no idea what to do right now. I'm literally sitting here with my hands looking around the room like, what's next? And
Okay, Lady Killer comes out on the 10th of October, and I've just added Virgin
yes.
Sacrifice to my Amazon wish list, which is basically where I like once a week go through and see is anything on sale or anything surprise on offer, and then once again buy too many books that I'll probably never read, but that is okay because book buying is different from book having, and they're also both acceptable hobbies.
Yes. No, completely separate and acceptable hobbies. I 100% agree.
Speaking of plus-sized FMCs, female main characters, do you enjoy yourself some S.J. Tilly?
I do. I have Darling Latte and the other one. I got to meet S.J. Tilly at Reader's Take Denver.
Oh, that I'm very pleased for you and jealous for me. Yeah, Smoky Darling and Latte Darling were really good. For that slightly darker edge, I love her Alliance series. There's 4 of them. What is it? Nero, King, Dom, and Hans, I think.
Yes,
they're delightful.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you obviously have like the Sleet series with the hockey players, which is great. But then I'm really excited because she started a new series now. So the second book comes out soon. She just released like the cover and the tropes, and I can't wait. It's going to be great.
Oh my gosh. Hockey and Mafia, and I just need to.
Yes, it's great. Have you read? I can't remember if it's under Serena Ackeroyd or G.A. Mazurke, but she also has. Well, so under Serena Ackeroyd for sure, she has like her 5-point series. And to be fair, her FMCs are usually quite delightfully curvy, and that has like Irish Mafia vibes. But she then also has like motorcycle that like slowly like kind of feeds into that loosely. They're all set in the same world, which is great. But then she also has I think they're under J. Mazurke. The first one is Endgame. I think the first one was Endgame. But really great. Lots of tension, and like you see like little like characters flitting in and about, but like it's about a new couple, and it's good. And then that one introduces you to a whole like other family of like cowboy brothers on a ranch.
Okay. For anyone listening that wants like an intro into a mix of motorcycle world plus a touch of like Mafia, look at Emma Slate.
Oh yes. Yes.
Crash and Carnage.
Yes.
Boy.
Yes.
It's the Tarnished Angel series. And I have literally I convinced one of my friends over social media that she needed to read the first one, and she read the first one and she was like, oh my god. She was like, please I'm putting the rest on my list. So every time we have a Kindle double points day, I go in and I make sure I get the next one for her, so she has the entire series ready.
Oh, that's amazing. I reread the first one maybe like a month ago because I just love the whole going up to him and like just grabbing his attention and being like, okay, I'm done now. And he's like, I don't think so.
We're not anywhere near done.
Nope. And then, I think I've read the first 3, and I like have the 4th one, and I'm totally going to buy it soon, but I haven't bought it yet. The one with they're not brothers, but they're brothers. They're like best friends, closer than brothers.
Mm-hmm.
That one's my next one.
Yeah, I need to read. I've read the first 3. I have them in print, and I have them all in. I have many Amazon lists, but
yes.
in one of my Amazon lists, but I just saw. I follow her on Instagram, and she has a limited edition new print for that series.
No,
that she just released. Yeah, she just got the I'll show you here. And anybody else can just go look at my Instagram for Emma Slate. You can stalk my page and find Emma Slate's page and look at it. Well, switch out of my personal account and into the Bookstagram account. Goodness gracious, come on, Natalie.
No, she does a great motorcycle MC world. And I like that it's like that balance of they're doing it to like have that self-identity, but like it's not like their defining feature.
Okay. I don't know how well you can see it.
Oh, they're pretty.
So those are the sides, and then let me see if I can find the tops.
Oh, look at those colors. Oh, that is pretty. Very pretty. Yeah. Very pretty.
And each of them has the Blue Devil's skull with wings.
Yeah.
Somewhere on the cover.
That's cool. I really love how authors get to just kind of like really explore their creativeness at the moment. Like, I feel like there's such a huge market for supporting them, and then like special editions or like new like versions. It's awesome. And I wish that my bank account let me support more. Actually, I don't know what's the bigger problem. Is it my bank account or that I don't have space for more books, which is not true. Universe, that is not true. Universe, I always have space for more books. I just need to make some new piles.
I need to get risers, and then I can lift what I've got and add more in front of them.
Yes, that could work.
Oh, and the tops of shelves can be used if you have bookends.
Yes, they can. Now, I definitely have some shelves that have like two layers of books.
Okay. So we talked about our last 5-star reads, and then star ratings. Yep. Do you feel as if reviews are really for readers, or are they for authors? Because I'm kind of like in between.
I think that they can be in between, but I do really think it depends on the author, because I know that there are a lot of authors out there who are just like, thank you so much for supporting me through reviews, but I'm not going to read it because I don't need that negativity in my life. Not that it would be a negative review, but there are enough of those that they just don't want to like invite that into their like creative space. And I totally think that's fair. I think that when I see Bookstagram accounts that I enjoy really excited about a book, that makes me excited about the book, regardless of whether they've actually gone into detail about why they like the book or not. Like, I really enjoy feeding off of that excitement, and I just hope that like what I post makes other people excited as well. Just like want to share the like books make me happy love with everybody else.
Yeah. I feel like, and I talked to someone about this before, and my indifference on whether or not I can really decide if they're for readers or authors. And it's because I know so many indie authors who their success in the first probably month after the publish of a book heavily relies on how many ratings and what that rating is between Goodreads and Amazon. But then there are a lot of authors who, depending on how well their marketing did in that month and a half before, that rating doesn't matter for them. Or they have such a following that they do so well with pre-orders and sales in the first week or so that it wouldn't make a difference.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a really interesting thing because, like, I mean, I'm a sucker for a deal and a sale. So if somebody tells me that a pre-order price is going to save me money versus when the book comes out, then in all honesty, I'm more likely to pre-order a book. I don't pre-order very often because I want to like enjoy the book when I get it, and I feel guilty if I have like a book sitting on my Kindle shelf for ages because I just haven't felt like it or got around to it. But I think also it's trying to find the balance of like, I know that an action that I make, like a really small action, can have like a impact for somebody else, and like that's amazing, but it's also terrifying and it's a lot of pressure. And I also know that sometimes for authors that like I've read that who solely write and release, and that is where they get where they generate their income from. Like they sometimes won't finish a series if it doesn't have like a not pre-order sales, if like a different series of theirs makes more money. And like I totally get that, but it also just makes me sad because sometimes I'm like, but that last couple that you were gonna give a story, like, and then they do come back to it, and like it's just about shifting gears. And I have always like been like, oh, I'd love to be an author one day, and I like to write, but I don't know if I'd ever feel comfortable doing it as my job. One, who knows if anybody actually ever wants to read anything that I put out there, but two, like I don't think I'd want to put pressure on other people to be like, well, I need you to help me get my next coffee fix, please, you know? But no, I just think that authors are magical unicorns in terms of what they do, what they accomplish, like, and then the teams that support them. I think it's really amazing. And I'm just really glad whenever there's something new for me to read and explore, or something that I get to go back to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's this delicate balance of authors who, you know, work full-time jobs like the rest of us, and those who are able to stay at home and write, or forced to stay at home and write. There are plenty that are like stay-at-home moms, and they try to write around their toddlers and young children.
That's a
need
job
attention.
in and of itself.
I cannot imagine. I could not imagine. And that's the majority of the teams that or my main team that I am on. I'm actually an alpha reader for N. Owens, and she's a stay-at-home mom, and she writes when she can, and she is lovely. She has a Peter Pan retelling coming out, and I'm so excited for it. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that'll be good.
I love it. Okay. Listen, I know I'm kind of biased because I'm on her team and I'm reading it currently, but I'm just going to let y'all know it's really good. It's like, again, reverse harem.
And everybody heard it here first.
Yes, you heard it. Well, she talks about it a little bit, so I'm not going to get in any trouble. It's called Never Say Never.
Oh, I've seen that pop up in places.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Okay. Reverse harem. I guess like Hook and Peter Pan are against one another. And in the story, they're actually like, I think half siblings, step siblings that hate each other. Yeah. And she is a bad mama jamma. Tink is. She's a bad mama jamma because she's a computer hacker.
Love that.
So yeah, anyways, I've been like girling out every time she uploads a new chapter. I'm like, forget all my adult responsibilities.
No, I think that is a lovely place to be, for sure.
So in light of upcoming releases, do you have any, aside from the one you mentioned earlier, or recent releases that you're really hyped up for?
Yeah, definitely looking forward to Brutal Husband by Lilith Vincent. I read, well, actually, it came out this week and I read it this morning, and it's the one that I'm like, it was really good, but I don't know like how good it was yet, like as I process it. I read, it's in a megaverse, and it's The Light in Us by Evelyn Flood, who always does lovely world building and character development. And yeah, it really like it hit me in my feels. And then it had a lovely little happily ever after, and so that was great. I also I love Kristen Ashley and the worlds that she creates in her books. And so she recently released Embracing the Change, and I was going to save that for a rainy day, and then I decided that it didn't matter if it was a rainy day or not, and enjoyed reading that a lot. And then, yeah, I don't know. I just get excited about books, and then I sometimes, like on Instagram, based off like what other people are suggesting or reading, like I really enjoy finding people and going back to it and everything.
Yeah.
Well, a question for you.
Okay.
So you find out about a book and you get really excited to read it because, like, whether it's the synopsis or the tropes or just, I don't know, there's a character in it that you're like, I'm going to hate you and love you all at the same time, or whatever your bag is. But then you find out it's like the third or fourth in the series. It's standalone, but it's the third or fourth in the series. Natalie, what do you do?
Full send. I'm going to read it anyways.
See, I wish I was more like that. I tend to be like, oh, well, now I have to go to book one and start there, and then I gotta complete the set, like I'm playing Pokemon.
Yeah, if it's like I really like, if it really has me hooked, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to read this right now. I will jump in immediately to that book, especially if like even if they're interconnected. Then I'll go back and read the others, and then I'm like, oh, this makes sense as to why they were in the. And I like sometimes I like having those aha moments because it's like, now I know the backstory. Like, oh my gosh, that's why he made that comment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that is true. And that is a fun way to get to explore it as well. I really appreciate authors that put in the work to be like, this is a standalone, but in an interconnected series so that, you know, you can read it by itself and it doesn't matter that you'll know who's together or not, but then you can go back and explore it and enjoy it. But yeah. There's just so much to read out there. So I don't know. There's probably, as soon as like we finish talking, I'll be like, but Natalie, I had a list of like 10 books that I'm really, really excited about. But there's always one more, I guess is what I would say instead. That there's always one more to get excited about. And I think that's one of the coolest things about being a reader.
Yeah. There's been a time or two when I have accidentally picked up a book and I didn't realize it was like one of the last in the series for Interconnected Standalone. And then I went back and looked at it and I was like, no way. And so I had to go back and start from the beginning. And I was like, I didn't even realize I had read the last book in this entire series like a couple months ago.
Yeah. No, but I think that's one of those cool things that you get to have. I'm trying to think. That happened to me recently. I didn't realize that it was part of another series. And then I was like, oh, I get it now. What I really like is when authors have worlds that they then share with other people so that you can like dabble in and see people that you like. Aurora Rose Reynolds does this with her booms, I'm saying boom because everybody feels a boom in her books, and that's like when they like are instantly like smitten. But she has actually, I want to say it's a publishing company that she does with her husband, but like, so you have their happily ever afters, and so then you'll get like most of her books in this particular like subsection world are like until something. So like Until November is the first one that she wrote in like the OG Maynard. Oh, this is really embarrassing. Mason series? I don't know. Until November. And then like there were like 4 key ones there because it was like the brothers together, and then like it slowly branched out to be like the cousins, and then now I'm actually so like on my Kindle, I tend to like read new books, and then on like the Kindle app on my phone, that's where I tend to reread stuff because like it'll just be if I'm waiting for a meeting to start or if I'm like on the train or the bus or whatever, I'll like flip out my phone and read it if I don't have my Kindle or my iPad or a physical book with me. But I'm rereading Until Mayhem, which is like something that sits in that wider world because it has like the Until title, but it's like still a separate thing. And it's Layla Frost, who also I really enjoy just in terms of like her world building. And it's crossed over with another one of Layla Frost's series. And the first one is Hide and Seek. And he owns a garage, whatever language accent you want to use on any given day, and falls for a young baker, and then like lots of chemistry shenanigans, and a whole bunch of other stuff. But like in Until Mayhem, you like get to visit the garage, and he's like built onto the garage so that she can have her bakery there, so that they like are interconnected and like can always see each other. And then like you get to see the other books and other characters from that series like together. Like you get to see Case and Harlow, and like all the different stories are just really good. Yeah, it's great. It's really great.
To future self.
Always more notes.
Yes, always notes. Okay, so do you have any like auto buy authors? Like immediately when you see their name and they're releasing something, you're just like, I know I'm going to own that one.
Yes, I definitely do. And that list like is pretty steady, but there definitely is more and more authors creeping onto that list. I do it with Kristen Ashley. I do it with Susan Stoker, who does a lot of military romance in a whole bunch of different veins, and just really does really great standalones and interconnected series as well. And then there's like the occasional character or two that will like cross over like all of the series, so they're all in like the same world. And she's also another author that has like a writing world that people get to write in if they want to, like I think it's like the Stoker Force. It's great. I really enjoy the escapism with a Layla Roberts book, so I definitely have those as well sometimes that I will like pre-order or auto buy. I'm just thinking. But yeah, definitely Susan Stoker and Kristen Ashley are probably like the top two on that list.
Yeah. And do you have a preference for like what condition your books are in when you buy them? Like, do you like, meaning like new versus used?
That's a good question. I primarily read electronic because if I tried to fund my reading habit in a physical capacity, I would need to live in a warehouse, which, to be fair, is not the worst idea I think I've ever had. But I think
mine either.
I love a new book because it's mine, but also I think that there are like, not to try and anthropomorphize things, but like I think there are so many books out there that just need like a good home and to be loved. So like I prefer if they're in good condition, but I would never say no to like a used book, or if there's a book that like I really enjoyed, but like it wasn't really for me. If I know somebody that would really like it, then I would definitely be like, please take this book and give it a new home. And I have friends that also do that with me, being like, so you need this book in your life. And I'm like, thank you. I don't think I've ever said no to a book. Because there's usually a reason why somebody would be like, I think this is for you. And so then I like to find out what that reasoning is. Or because they read it, then I could be like, okay, I've read it. Now we can talk about it and just dissect it and figure out like what could happen next, or what we would do, or how we wanted to, I don't know. One of my number one things is I want to reach into books and smack MMCs upside the head because they're being stupid. But I also enjoy when they are being stupid because it means that I get to enjoy their grovel, or they're coming to realize that they were idiots and all that kind of stuff. I definitely love a grovel. I really, really do. And like the kind of like gut wrenching feel when that female main character is like this is never going to get better, like it's over, and then it does finally somehow get fixed, especially when it's somebody that you're like, that was irredeemable. That's when you know you have like a good author, when you're like, well, shoot, I love them still, actually, even though I know that I really, really shouldn't. But yeah. Do you have a favorite book grovel?
I really, really, really enjoy when okay, like for the Twisted series.
Yes.
In Twisted Love,
Mm-hmm.
when she literally moved out of the country
Yeah.
and he followed her to grovel and she
Yeah.
made him wait a year. Like, okay, yeah, that was kind of petty, but at the same time, like, if I can no longer trust you, to what
Yeah.
extent are you going to go? And
Yeah.
that was the whole reasoning behind it. Like, if I can no longer trust you and I no longer know who you are because you're not who you made me believe you are,
Yes.
you are going to have to spend some time proving to me who it is you are and what lengths it is you are willing to go for me. And of course, like in that situation, he's a billionaire, so it's no big deal for him to just up and go. Like,
Yeah.
you know, but
that emotional
I do like
impact, that's
that.
heavy.
Yeah, I do really enjoy like that emotionally heavy, like grovel that is an extended amount of time. Like you have to 6 months or so continuously prove, you're going to be there, you're going to be doing something. And that is done in many ways.
Yeah.
Showing up when nobody else would, having your back in situations nobody else would, or providing the things that I need. Like a lot of the times it's, I'm going to help you get your business XYZ up and running.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to help you be there and run it. And then I'm going to be your security. And most of the time somebody breaks into said business and they're like, I got to get her back, or, macho manly.
Yeah. Or like, I think I mentioned it earlier, in my favorite Kidnapper by Melanie Moreland, he basically like tries her baked goods, kidnaps her to be like, one, I find you ridiculously attractive, although I don't think he says that for ages, but two, you basically need to bake for me for a year. And she's like, oh, I suppose I could do that in this villa in Italy. What a hardship. But he, at a certain point, because of some stuff that goes down, like does that like, I'm trying to be honorable thing, and like basically rejects her because he is like, this will be better for you in the long run. And then she's like,
good for you.
yeah. Oh. And then for a while she's like in her feels about it. And then after that she's like, actually, I'm not going to stand for that. I reject your rejection. And then like goes about making it so that like they can be together and stuff. I'm a sucker for a rejected like mate kind of trope. So tasty.
Yeah, it really is. That's crazy. I also, I don't know. It's not Anna, but the Twisted Love series in whole, like I liked that situation, but in all honesty, I really struggled with, after I finished the series, I didn't get any joy from any of them but the last one, Twisted Lies. And I think it's because I have a thing for like the really dark, and that was the closest to what it was that I consider my comfort.
Yeah.
Just because it was like, he is the most, and I'm going to say gray character they had.
Yeah.
And so it was this like, I'm your stalker, but you know.
Yeah. No, it's true. And I think that like, you have different levels and layers of that. Cause like I was thinking, I was like, I don't think I have a favorite grovel, because also I definitely, the level of grovel that I need depends on what mood I'm in. But I was just thinking about like, is it about how far they go to redeem themselves, or is it about how badly they like hurt them before they like then try and win them back, or like is it like I'm also a sucker for the overheard trope that, and then like that internalization of he said something really mean about me, or he didn't defend me when somebody else did, and then like needing to like learn to either find that inner strength to be like, actually what they said doesn't matter because I know this value about myself, or just all those different things. But like I think when somebody often is like gray or quite much more in like the black spectrum there, it's really interesting because what I love with those is actually either they once had love and affection and it got taken away from them, or they've never actually had it. So to them, it's anathema. They don't know what it is. They don't know what it means. They're just like, I have acid indigestion, but it's like, no, actually you're in love with someone. Like, I just think that it's really cool when they're like, oh, why is this like weird like pang that I'm feeling? And it's like, well, it's because you just rejected somebody that literally brought sunshine into your really dark pitch black life, and now you don't have it anymore. And it's like, oh, well, what am I going to do about that? And it's like, well, that's when you start groveling. And like people who are like, I don't need to apologize. And it's like, yeah, you need to start learning those 5 letters and see what you can do with them. And so, yeah, I know. I'm spending a lot of time in the gray area of the rainbow at the moment.
Yeah. And I also have this really sweet spot for I gave myself up for their safety, or I put myself in harm's way to protect them, or
yes.
like I
sacrifice.
Yes, like I sacrificed myself for you, and I'm like, especially with the Lord series, okay? Chantel does a great job of forcing these men who grew up in a world where love was not a thing and women were just a tool, and a toy, essentially. And she's forcing these men to realize that like their strongest attribute are the things that their women bring out in them, and like the things that their women help them figure out that they have.
It's true though, but then also like it's not on the dark spectrum by any means, but it does fit like another one of my little niches, which is I love a bodyguard trope. And especially then if they're like, but I'm not going to like the person that I'm guarding, or they have the wrong impression of who they is. They think it's somebody that's really like hoity-toity and uppity, and then it's like, actually they're not. But
oh my gosh.
one of the ones that I immediately had to think of is, I want to say it's the second in a series, and it's Pretty Daring by Jen Hype. And she like, her family's rich, but she doesn't want anything to do with them. But everybody thinks that she's just kind of like a blonde bimbo. I actually can't remember if she has blonde hair or not, but like but she actually isn't an airhead. Like there's so much to her, and she wants to start like a fashion brand design with her best friend, and her dad is not a very nice man, and she ends up getting caught in like one of his like, not like getting caught in a business deal, but she has like a shot taken at her, so she gets a bodyguard, and then like this, she ends up moving in with him. Also love that. Always loved like a forced proximity. But then he has like is it his nephew has like is ill with something, and then she ends up in the hospital to like help in that space, but doesn't want anybody to know. Like it's like a whole different kind of sacrifice, and it's really, really great. Or going back to like rejected or like overheard, but in it's something that always sticks with me. In Protecting Alabama by Susan Stoker, it's like 67% into the book. There's a whole bunch of stuff has happened, and he's been like, you lied to me, you're not who you said you were. And like she just turned to him in, I think she's been arrested, accused of something that she didn't do, and he's like, I can't stand liars. You know I can't stand liars. And like goes off on her in an interrogation room. And all she does is turn to him and say, you promised in like a really quiet voice, and then like completely shuts down, and then like the next 30% of the book is him being like, how do I undo what I have done? Oh, it's so good. And I like enjoy the book in general, but sometimes if I'm like, I just need to hit in the gut, I like go to like that point in the book and then like read to the end, and I'm like, oh, the feels so good.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
I was gonna say, I could talk about books all day. This has been so lovely, and I've definitely made note of things that I need to be picking up and reading for sure.
Me too.
I was going to say, I could talk forever more, but I also want to give you time to do what you need to do in your life so that you can get back to the rest of your Chantel book. But thank you so much, Natalie. This is like my first ever podcast, but I had so much fun, and I would 100% do it again.
Oh, thank you so much for joining me. And you know what? I will be reaching back out to you. We'll schedule another one because, listen, I'm going to read some of these and you're going to read some of those. And then we're going to come back and we're going to talk some more.
I would love that. I really would. And also it'll be like, oh, but I need the book because I got to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, it's not now.